Hey everyone, it's Thrifting Time. It's been several months since I've been able to visit a thrift store, so when a lot of the lockdowns were lifted and stores started to reopen, I decided to go out and kind of take a peek and see what they look like now. The first weird thing that I noticed is even though this was all filmed in the second and third week of June, is that they already had their Christmas stuff out. I know that seems weird, but the Goodwill stores in my area do a Christmas in July special every year where they kind of try and get rid of a lot of their overstocked Christmas stuff, but it looks like they got things started a few weeks early this year. You just see pallets of Christmas stuff all over. But what I'm really here to look at is like vintage electronics and things like that. And the first thing that I found was this Sony Mavica floppy disk camera. And I love these cameras. I have one myself. It's a slightly different model, but I like to just take it out and take pictures of old things, dead malls, stuff like that. I just kind of like the aesthetic that it adds to the picture. Now there's something you don't see very often anymore, the Bell logo. Looks like that's Bell South, one of the baby bells. And I just found this old office phone kind of interesting in its package, and I got a little bit of a chuckle at that environmentally safe foam-free thing because lots of stuff still uses styrofoam now. Let's take a look over at the VHS tapes. Here's an interesting one, part of the Schoolhouse Rock series, but unfortunately it doesn't look like they have a lot of VHS tapes here to look at. Just some of your standard Disney, big box clamshell things. The obligatory copy of Independence Day on VHS that's at every thrift store. Now this I found kind of interesting. This is Runaway Ralph, starring Fred Savage. That's part of the Mouse on a Motorcycle series, but I didn't know they did like a made-for-TV movie starring Fred Savage on ABC. I don't remember this at all from my childhood. And I liked that book series. Now taking a look at the video games, kind of the same thing. You've got a lot of your PS2 sports titles, tons of copies of Wii Fit. I got a good chuckle at this, 15,000 games. This is one of those like shareware shovel packs it looks like, but for newer Windows PCs. But there's really not 15,000 games there, like a slot machine counts as a game on there. This is kind of interesting too. This is a PlayStation 2 demo disc for MLB 07. I haven't seen this before. I've never seen a disc in a, kind of faux case like this. It's actually just a cardboard sleeve. You can see the disc in there. It's kind of interesting, but not for the price. I wouldn't want to pay more than $1 for that to check it out. Now, even though they try and keep all the games together, I always look through the CD jewel case area just to see if there's any other games or software hidden in there, but all I could find was this Care Bears Care-a-Lot Jamboree. Looks like it's from THQ, who I believe is defunct now. I always love seeing stuff like this too, this Life album 1996. These are always fun to flip through because it kind of reminds you of news stories that you forgot about, and there's just really, really pretty photographs and stuff in it. It's like there's a big old tomato fight there. Oh look, there's Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Dennis Rodman all on one picture. And then, holy crap, that is Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Apparently 1996 is when they finally caught him. I didn't remember that. Now, I've never actually seen one of these pieces of workout equipment in real life. I remember seeing it in movies like Goonies and stuff, but it's just kind of interesting to actually finally see one. This really caught my interest too. This is actually in its original Montgomery Ward's box. It's a Ward's slide projector, and I know that's not super interesting, but I just love seeing the old Ward's logo. You can tell this is from the 60s or 70s based upon just the way the manual is laid out. I believe this is from the 70s, and it looks like they used this manual for 3 different models. The model 111, 222, and this one, the model 333. Here's kind of a closer look at it with the cover off and everything. And this thing is heavy. It weighed a ton, it felt like. You can see the little projector lens there and everything. And on the way out, the last thing I noticed was this old Zenith Radio. And these are pretty cool as well, but this one looked like it was pretty banged up. Some of the knobs were missing. I'm not even sure if it turned on or at all or anything like that. And when I caught a look at the price, they were asking $200 for this. That seems a little high for something that probably doesn't work. Still kind of a neat piece of furniture though. Now on to our second Goodwill store, and this is a larger store. This is one that I don't go to very often because I always kind of forget about it, but it is really big, and it's also so packed full of stuff that they're doing the donation drop-off stuff outside in the front, which kind of looks like crap, to be honest with you. I'm surprised the shopping center was letting that go on. Over here, over with the games and movies and stuff, I found a copy of Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2000. It's the big box PC version. It's kind of funny because I know that games like this were not cheap when they were new. This was probably, $50 or whatever, brand new. I took a look on eBay and it looks like this goes for about $2 or $3 now in the box. I do like that gatefold though. They've also once again got multiple copies of Wii Fit and looks like Sing It for the Wii as well. It's really becoming harder to find video games lately, at least ones worth buying. I've got some PC games over here like Diablo 2. And this one caught my eye not just so much because of what it is, but because of the Bookman's price tag. That is one of my favorite stores. And if you haven't seen my video on Bookman's, you should definitely check it out. Oh, and they've got a lot of the Sims expansion packs as well. Now, over here in the books section is a real relic. This is Internet for Dummies. The Dummies books always crack me up to begin with, but the Internet for Dummies one is always great to look at. This is the 5th edition from 1998, so it's still pretty ancient. And you've got some great late 90s comic strips here about things that are relevant to the internet, at least back then. And then flipping through it, it's great to see these old AOL screens. I haven't seen that screen in ages, and that just brings back a lot of nostalgia. And there's a screenshot of a very ancient version of Internet Explorer. And do you guys remember Netscape Navigator when that was a browser that people used? That's still mentioned here in this book as well. That's just a fun little time capsule to look at. Now here we've got a copy of Emergency Room 3, and you know what I like about this? Everybody's wearing masks on the cover. That was actually a good thing too. It seemed like everyone was respecting the mask rules in the Goodwills that I went to. Really outside of that though, I have no idea what this game is and why it was over here in the electronics section. What I was really interested in looking at was, once I get this game put away, was this Super 8 recorder. This thing looked like it was in pretty good condition. I don't know anything about them, but it's really heavy and chunky. It's like it's a Keystone model K622. That would be fun to film stuff with. I've never had a chance to use one of these before. I know over here we've got an original Xbox controller, the first controller. It's nicknamed the Duke, and I really do love this controller. A lot of people hated it because it was so big, but I've got big hands, so I actually found it really comfortable. I'm always on the lookout for good old speakers as well, just because they don't make them like they used to, and these Omnivector speakers by Bose looked pretty nice, but they were a little bit too beat up and stuff for my tastes. I just wish they made nice speakers like this still. Now this is funny to see too. This is a Toastmaster wide slot toaster, and I know that doesn't sound super interesting, but what's great about this one is it's still in its original box, and also this is the same model toaster that was used in Ghostbusters 2 in the scene where they put the goo in the toaster to make it dance, so just kind of an interesting note about that model. Now this Goodwill is very large, so it has a lot of furniture as well, and Mark and I were both laughing at this couch because I think everybody knew somebody who had this couch when they were growing up, and God, is it tacky with the wood grain there and then that like brass bead of metal that goes around it. What a brown turd. These old dining chairs are a good example of that too. I think everybody had a grandparent that probably had these chairs at some point in their dining room. That is just ancient fabric. It looks like Mark found something he liked over in the toy section. We also found this limited edition George Burns doll. I've seen these at flea markets before, and this is something they would normally have in the glass case with the good stuff at Goodwill, but they've actually gotten rid of the glass cases temporarily because it's just too hard to kind of keep people socially distanced at that. So that's why there's a $25 collector's doll out here, although I don't think anybody actually cares about these. I usually see them pretty cheap, like I said, at flea markets and stuff, in an old plastic bin with some beat up boxed Spice Girl toys. Now here's a Smartstart Speller from Vtech, and this is an older toy as well, and sometimes these are fun to play with, and some of these old Vtech electronics get quite a bit of money on eBay. Unfortunately, when I take a closer look at this one, you can see the plastic's yellowed, and it's just filthy when we flip it over. There's just years of dirt crusted in there. And when I check inside the battery compartment, we can see that that is completely destroyed as well. I know this is fixable, but I don't know that it's worth putting the time into it for this toy. That's unfortunate to see something that destroyed. Let's move on to the last Goodwill store for the video, and this is a newer one that's close to me that I didn't even know about. And it looks like they've got their Christmas stuff out a little bit early as well here at this one. Over in the electronics section, I found both of these really awesome console cassette decks. It looks like they just needed new belts replaced because they both did power on, but they didn't seem to spin the spindles in the cassette player. Sometimes the belts can be really easy to replace on these, and sometimes they can be really difficult, but if you're looking for an old cassette set like this, Goodwill is a great place to look. This store had a lot of furniture as well, and a lot of tacky stuff, like look at these lamps. I can't think anywhere besides like a weird hotel that those would look good in. And these lamps also, same thing. The only thing I can think of that these would look good in is in your grandma's house 40 years ago. I do like the purple glass though. And even Goodwill is not immune from the random drink place somewhere. I don't know why people can't just find a garbage can. This I thought was pretty funny. This is a Podcast Factory from M Audio, and it looks like it includes the software, the microphone, and a little mixer box for you to use. This thing is fairly old. I think it came out sometime in the early 2000s, but I was surprised to find that in the box it still goes for like $40 or $50 on eBay. So the few dollars that it was here seems like that's a great deal for it. I just have to imagine that microphone is awful. Alright, let's take a look at the video games at this Goodwill. And we've got some Xbox 360 titles that nobody wants, a lot of PS2 sports stuff, and once again, just tons of copies of Wii Fit. So many copies of Wii Fit. Now, down over in the jewel cases, I did find a copy of Age of Empires for the PC. PC games have been really hard to find. I just have not been seeing a lot of them at Goodwill lately, so it was kind of nice to at least see that, even though I didn't need it. I also got a good laugh at these. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Kids Bop stuff. If you have kids at home, it's really hard to escape the commercials for this, and they really do crank these things out. I just took a look, and they're up to Kids Bop 40. This is Kids Bop 31, and I don't feel like these songs are that old. And right near it, we've got another infamous series, the Now That's What I Call Music series. This is number 19. I took a quick look at their website, and it looks like they're already at volume 74. So apparently people still buy these, and this one's a little bit older. I really thought this series would have died out a long time ago, but I guess enough people buy them to keep them around. Now over in the electronics section, I also found an Xbox 360 console, and this is the later hardware revision, so it might actually still work. And $40, if it does work, is not a bad price. From what I understand, Xbox 360 consoles have kind of become scarce and hard to find lately. It was nice to finally go out and thrift again. I have to say though, it didn't feel the same, and I didn't feel like I found as much great stuff as I normally do. And also, since filming this, the COVID situation has gotten much worse in my area, so I probably won't be visiting any thrift stores again anytime soon. Hopefully you all enjoyed a little bit of thrifting time with me, and as always, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/retailarchaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Thrifting Time. If you enjoyed it, I've put a link to a playlist of more episodes there, and also make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also follow at the social media links there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel.